Hi, welcome to the first episode of Cook Asian. Today we'll be teaching you how to make a Chinese-style Zhajiangmian. You may have encountered this dish at certain Korean establishments. However, today we're making the Beijing version, which could be up for debate whether it's the original or not. However, the essential ingredients of this dish is pretty much the same, which is a mixture of a bean-based sauce, usually garnished with fresh vegetables and served over freshly cooked thick chewy noodles that you can find in your typical Asian grocery store. We'll go ahead and get started. The base of the Beijing-style Zhajiang sauce is essentially 3 different types of soybean pastes. The first one being a sweetened soybean paste, which is smooth in texture and has a high sugar content. The second one being a soybean paste sauce that is medium in sugar content and medium in coarseness. And the third one being Zhajiang, which has 0 sugar content and a very salty flavor profile and coarse texture. All 3 soybean pastes also contain wheat as a key ingredient, so if you are gluten-free, this is not the recipe for you. But if you love gluten in your everyday diet, please keep on watching. Before we fry the sauce, we have to prep them together with the Zhajiangmian cooking wine. So here we are measuring the 3 sauces to the proportion listed below in the description box. And pre-soaking the sauces in Zhajiangmian cooking wine will give it a nice fermented aroma that gives it the special umami. Zhajiangmian cooking wine is used quite frequently in Chinese cooking, and it also reduces, since we're using pork for this recipe, it also reduces gaminess that comes with a lot of meat dishes. Once your sauce is mixed and ready to go and set aside, you can also prep some green onions for the sauce at the end. So here I have some whites of some scallions. I am just julienning them thinly and then mincing them very finely and setting them aside to use at the end of the sauce. This dish is traditionally made with ground pork, which is what we're using here. You can also use another meat of your choosing. However, the fat content has to be at least 20 to 30% to get the correct texture. Here we're frying the pork actually in 2 batches. The first batch we're frying just till it's cooked all the way. And the second batch we are actually frying until it's extra crispy, so it gives you a variety in texture in the final sauce. After the pork is done cooking, just take it out of the pot and set it aside until the sauce is done cooking. You will put it back into the sauce and mix all together. Once the meat is done and ready to go, we're finally ready to get onto the actual sauce portion of this dish. What you want to do first is that you want to infuse your oil with some aromatics. Here we have a star anise and a few sprigs of the green parts of the green onion that we used earlier. Once you get the green onions brown on the edges and you have evaporated all the water, you can take it out and then add your sauce. You want the heat on low, and this is quite a slow cooking process. What you are doing here really is that you are slowly cooking the moisture out of this sauce mixture and having it infused with the oil content. Once the water has evaporated enough from the sauce, and you know it's ready when there's a thin layer of oil separating from the top of the dark sauce paste at the edges of the pan. That will indicate that it is ready for the meat to go back in. Here we're adding back in all the meat that we've already cooked earlier, and we are going to mix it well with the sauce for just 2 to 3 minutes to make sure the meat is well coated and the saltiness is infused. Remember that we didn't add any seasoning to the meat earlier, so this is really the only chance you'll get to season your meat with the sauce. Once the meat is fully incorporated, the last step of finishing the sauce is adding the finely minced green onions to the mixture. I am just dumping in all the onions we've already chopped up and mixing it in well, and then we can shut off the heat. The sauce is done. We can set that aside while we prep the rest of the dish. Here we're going to prep some common condiments that you will find on top of the Beijing-style Zhajiangmian. So here we have some cucumbers, carrots, and bean sprouts. Any type of bean sprouts will do. We are going to julienne the cucumbers and the carrots very thinly. We are going to blanch the carrots and the bean sprouts, but the cucumbers can be used as topping as is. Here I am just taking my julienne carrots and quickly blanching them in boiling water for about 30 seconds. And once the 30 seconds are up, you want to take them out and put them in cold water immediately to make sure you don't overcook the carrots and retain the crunch. You will go ahead and do the same thing to the bean sprouts as well. Another popular topping for the jjajangmian is boiled soybeans. Here I have some yellow soybeans that I soaked overnight in water, and we will go ahead and boil them for 5 minutes to cook them thoroughly. Once they are cooked thoroughly, you will do the same thing as you've done with the carrots and soybeans, which is chuck them in cold water and then drain well before serving. We are on to the last step of this noodle dish, which is boiling the noodles. You can use any medium to thick with noodle that you like, preferably fresh. The brand here I'm using is a Korean noodle, but you can find any fresh noodle in your Asian supermarket if you're liking, and go ahead and use that brand. This is just what I had on hand. You can cook it according to the directions of the package, and normally Chinese people like a softer noodle versus an Italian al dente type of texture, but you know, you be the judge of your own noodle preference. Once you boil the noodle, you want to fully drain it and plate it on a serving plate. Now you're finally ready to assemble your noodles. You want to take a little bit of each of the garnishes we prepped. So here I have a little bit of cucumber, a little bit of carrots, and a little bit of bean sprouts, and a couple spoonfuls of the soybeans. You want to top that with 2 to 3 generous spoonfuls of the jjajang noodles, and it is basically ready to serve. When eating this dish, you basically mix the sauce and the noodles as you go. You don't have to mix it all together immediately. It's more of a eat as you go on dish, and if you feel like you need more sauce at the end for the rest of your noodles, you can go ahead and do that. And that is all there is to it.